Hey everybody, my name is Philip Regas and this is my current affairs project. I'm going to highlight again the Central Intelligence Agency, which is what I did my agency presentation on. I just decided to stick with the same agency here on this one. Play it safe just in case I'm doing an agency. I didn't want to do another agency that one of you guys had already done. So this article is called The Intelligence Coup of the Century, and it was first ran by the Washington Post on February 11th of this year. Again, this is highlighting the Central Intelligence Agency. So on February 11th, the Washington Post ran a story on the CIA and how they pretty much undermined the whole entire world by secretly owning and controlling a Swiss encryption device company. And they did this for over 50 years. This story in the Washington Post is based on declassified reports that can be obtained through FOIA on the CIA website. The reasons why I chose this current affair. So, what does the CIA do? How they operate? That was a question I posed in my agency presentation. Pretty much, it's a mystery, right? They collect and obtain data through what kind of means? Ethical means? I don't know. Let's see if there are any ethical breaches. It seems as if the CIA has to go to great lengths to, have the upper edge, have the edge in technology and everything we're doing in global affairs. So this all starts in the 1930s when Crypto AG is a encryption device company. It was founded by a Swedish inventor named Boris Hagelin. And actually Hagelin in the late 1930s, after he had immigrated to Norway from Russia, he had to leave Norway due to the invasion by Nazis. And he left to the U.S. And when he left to the U.S., he started selling the U.S. his mobile encryption devices that would help, they could carry around with them, that soldiers could carry around with them when they were out in the field. They could relay messages back and forth, but they only had about a 6-hour window before these messages were intercepted. So in the 1950s, Hagelin, the CIA and the NSA, National Security Agency, they brokered an unofficial deal, or what is called a gentleman's agreement. The agreement allowed the two agencies to hack into rigged systems that were sold to countries that were not on America's list. So the U.S., we had the CIA, they had a list of countries that we weren't going to sell rigged devices to and attempt to break into their device and steal secret messages, know what's going on. And the main reason they did this was to prevent adversarial countries to acquire weapons or gain an edge in technology. In 1970, as Hagelin was aging, he was getting older. I think he was approaching around 80. So the CIA was kind of getting nervous about what he was going to do with the company. So the CIA and West German intelligence, their agency group, which is called the BND, they approached Hagelin with a deal to buy him out and become owners of Crypto AG. So a Swiss law firm was, so they actually did. They bought the company for $5.7 million in 1970. 1970. A Swiss law firm was able to broker the transaction anonymously through a series of shells and bearer accounts that required no records of transactions. That is when Operation Codename Thesaurus was born. So for years, the CIA and the BND split not just the profits from the encryption devices, because they both owned a share of the companies, but they also shared all the secret communications that were intercepted through all the other countries that bought these rigged devices. Reports state that the handling of cash between the two agencies most of the time was delivered in an underground parking garage in Switzerland. So when you think about, I'm going back to my agency presentation when I'm thinking about, like, as a kid, when I'm thinking about the CIA, thinking about guys with trench coats carrying around briefcases of money or technology, like, that's kind of what it is, right? That takes me back to that, with guys in, a briefcase with the money, handing them off in a dark, underground parking garage. So the CIA and the BND, they over the years they had several disagreements. The BND was opposed to the CIA rigging the systems of allies. The CIA started rigging all the systems that they were selling to pretty much everyone, so they could know what the heck's going on with the entire world. So yeah, they were selling rigged systems to countries that were allies, like I believe Turkey, Italy, and Spain were some of them. Of course, I also read that China and Russia never bought devices from these countries, which they had their own their own method of they had their own encryption device businesses that probably just as good as, if not better than ours, but and they were very suspicious of what was going on, of the U.S. and the CIA during that time, of course, being the Cold War. So crucial information over the years, was intercepted. Some of that was the CIA found messages of Libyan officials congratulating each other after a 1986 East Berlin disco, which is popular with American soldiers, was bombed. And then actually, like, quotes from President Reagan is kind of what tipped off government officials, Libyan government officials, and not just Libyan, but several officials from other countries that had bought these encryption device machines, including Iran and other Middle East countries. They all became suspicious during that time too, because of communist comments that President Reagan had made, and how they knew about how they suspected Libya of doing this terror attack. So the CIA documents also report that there were over 120 countries had used crypto from the 1950s to 2000. Like I just said, including several in the Middle East, like Iran and Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria. A lot of these countries with ties to terrorism. So in the 1990s, a crypto salesman was arrested and detained in Iran for over 9 months on suspicion of selling flawed devices. So crypto employees, they had no idea who owned or controlled the company that they worked for. There was whispers throughout the company that it was owned by a certain intelligence agency, but they could never pinpoint which one, or they never knew exactly which one, or they never even for sure if it was owned by an intelligence agency. But there were a couple of very bright individuals working there who definitely had suspected that it was owned by an intelligence agency. Now, this crypto salesman, I believe his last name was Bueller, he was out. He had traveled to Tehran, had been making sales throughout the company for about 6 or 7 years, and I think it was in the early 90s he was arrested and detained, and that they weren't going. Iran said they weren't going to release him unless crypto paid a $1 million ransom. And so Bueller has no idea he's selling these flawed devices, because that's what he's being detained for. He's under suspicion of selling flawed devices to Iran. So because the CIA has a strict they don't negotiate ransoms with money policy. They did not refuse. They refused to contribute to his release. They refused to contribute any part of the $1 million to his release. So the BND, which is the Western German intelligence group, ended up paying that entire ransom. So in 1993, due to mounting suspicion and the fear of political and economic disaster, along with outrage from other European countries, Germany sold their shares of crypto to the CIA. They were just getting a lot of pressure from their government. They got scared, pretty much, and said this isn't worth it if we get found out. It could have disastrous impacts on our economy. So they ended up selling the rest of their shares to the U.S. I think it was for about $17 million at the time. So meanwhile, the CIA is funneling profits of this venture in other. And they're setting up other encryption device companies, and kept all the secrets to themselves for the next 20 years. In 2017, the CIA sold the company to a real estate investor in a deal estimated to be between $50 and $70 million. So the CIA, not only did they make millions in profits off this, they also gathered crucial information. So much information that gave them the edge in whatever it was, like technology, matters of war. There was a brief conflict called the Falklands War between Argentina and Britain back, I think it was 1982, and Britain ended up prevailing over that through that war, through messages that were intercepted using those encryption devices as well. Those messages were relayed over from U.S. intelligence to British intelligence to help them win that war. As of today, CIA officials have declined to comment on this operation, which was later changed in the 1980s. They changed the name of the operation from Thesaurus to Rubicon. Doesn't give any reason why they do that, but it's a really interesting article. I will post the link to that article in. I'll actually post it on here before I upload this up to Blackboard, so if anyone's interested, they can read the article as well. There's all types of information. There's a couple other articles where they actually have recordings. NPR, I think, does some recordings of officials that were interviewed over this, because there were numerous interviews conducted about this with former employees of crypto and even former agents of BND, yet CIA officials have declined to comment at all. So there you have it. That's my current affair project. Thank you, everyone. I hope everyone's being safe and healthy. Have a good rest of the school year, guys.